We are live. And today I have got with me my darling, beautiful, amazing friend, Vida Bee.
Good morning.
So, Vida and I spent the weekend together. Well, we've spent quite a few weekends together
We
now.
have, yes.
Last weekend was particularly fascinating. Well, I think for everybody that was there, but certainly for me in terms of the new story. There's so let me just give people that have not done any family constellations a little bit of an overview of what we did at the weekend without giving anybody's compromising anybody's stories. But there was things in there about religion, what had happened through this kind of system of religion, and obviously ancestral stuff, and how it works down from way up the maternal line or the paternal line, it doesn't matter, and how that pain gets passed on. Hi, Delvina.
Yay.
It comes in and how it gets passed on. It's and I think we all know that. But what is amazing about the work that you're doing? So let's talk about family constellations and the new story in slightly separate ways, where you can stand back. For those of you who've never done family constellations, you can do a constellation on your family, which means that quite often total strangers will step into the shoes of your ancestors, and in some phenomenological way, information and energy comes through, and it allows you to sit and watch the how trauma gets passed down mainly, and why people have maybe behaved. And you can see it from just that much higher perspective. But not only that, not only do you get to see it from a different perspective, it gets released on the energetic field. Is that a good description?
Yeah, I would say so. It's very hard to describe because it is phenomenal. I can't say it now. Phenomenological. There's two parts to it. One is it's very simple in that whatever is unresolved doesn't disappear, and most of our ancestors have unresolved issues because what do we do when something's very painful and we just don't feel like we can deal with it? We just try and compartmentalize it, put it off to the side. We just soldier on, and we think that that's the best for our loved ones and everyone around us. But it doesn't disappear, and yeah, it will try to be played out through the next generations to balance it, because basically everything's looking for acknowledgement. So all of these unresolved injustices or issues that have happened, there's always a victim and there's always a perpetrator. So we have this dynamic. I'm sure everyone can relate. If you think about your own family system, even your own relationship with a parent or someone else, at points someone will be the victim and someone will be the perpetrator, and this can continue on. And you think, well, why? It's usually someone else's story. So that's one side of it. And the part of how we actually do the releasing is the bit that we can't explain. Nobody knows. It's science can't really explain it to us yet. Epigenetics is showing us how this gets passed down in the DNA. But when you stand and represent someone's ancestor and you can fully embody that without any special skills or experience, it just happens. Anyway, that's how we get the acknowledgement of what's unresolved, and then it can release, and the love flows.
Yeah, and obviously I've done this with you, I don't know how many times now, and it still blows me away.
Me too, yeah.
And I kind of wonder, because I've experienced it personally when one time I just felt my body getting up to go and stand in the role of an ancestor, somebody's ancestor, and when quite often you make me go. Completely coerce me, and then you just stand there and you can start to feel things, and you're like, what? And my conscious mind, obviously this scientist bit in me, is always like, what's happening here? But I think one of the big things is just intention.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And just allowing. It's it's so it's such a precious and sacred thing to do, and it just allows that whole story to unravel, because obviously I teach letting go, and I know that what's happening with you, and I can see you feel when it's not completely released and you get in with more questions, and I can feel that too, because obviously I've been doing this work like you for a long time, so I know that it's a process of letting go because I can feel it in my own body. And it seems to me that's, I suppose, a bit intention and attention, and also the power of the group, because well, it was all women. I know you work with men as well, but on that retreat at the weekend, the new story, it was all women, and how we, some of the suffering that people have gone through. I feel actually like I've had such a blessed life. I mean, I complained about it, but really, compared to some of the trauma some people go through, and you can't, the compassion comes through, and so then the collective energy, because obviously stuff I teach is about how the brain's entrained, and then when we're all genuinely, engaged in a process, which is pretty spectacular and fascinating to watch. And then obviously the cells start to mimic, and then we create this power grid, where the power of the collective, and that your sisters, all, everybody absolutely wanting the best and wanting to assist in the release of that pain and suffering and story from the past. It's so amazing. So let's talk a little bit about the new story, because we could be on here talking about family constellations all day.
Yeah.
And I'll put the links to where people can. You keep going away. People used to say that to me. It's so annoying. Yes, and I will continue to keep going away, because I was saying we need to get more dates in for this work, because certainly from my perspective, I know that most people that come to me needing healing, there's ancestral trauma there that needs to be dissolved. But I know you do a lot of stuff online. People can find you that way. But let's talk about the new story, because that's just taking it forward a bit, and it's something that I've kind of known from my days in Malta. I got a lot of insights and understanding from others and through my own body on how it's going to be in the future when we get through the turmoil of the now. So can you give an overview of the new story, which is what we really worked a lot on, which was incredible at the weekend?
Yes, sure. So I have an amazing teacher called Susan Eltswager in Australia, and she offers wonderful stuff on the new story. And it really is time. It's time now. She's been sitting with it for 40 years and not knowing what to do with it. But it's time, because we all feel it. So the new story doesn't come at the end of the old story. It's not like, now this is all disintegrating around us, full stop, now we're in the new story. It's here already, and it's holding so that everything is able to crumble, these densities that we're in. And people think, oh, it's about spirituality, so like if I have this practice every day, and I eat like this, and I do all my meditations, and I do yoga, and I do all these things, then I'm going to be fine because I'm in the new story. But the new story it's a frequency, it's an upgrade, so it's happening whether you choose it or not. So what we were working on at the weekend is, how can you allow that shift with ease? Because if not, it's basically like being in the whitewater rapids of a river and hanging on to a wee branch that's sticking out, and hanging on for dear life whilst you get tossed around the place is kind of what's going to happen to us as we're going into this new story. Or how do we let go of that wee branch and go with it? And then at some point, quite soon down the river, you're going to be in this very tranquil pool that's holding you whilst you're floating with the sun on your face and all this kind of visuals. But that's kind of what it's like. So how do you allow this frequency to come through you with the least resistance? Because resistance is going to be there. This is all we've ever known in this lifetime, this separation. So the new story is about wholeness. Now that's wholeness of your own cells, of your own body, of all your bodies, of your systems, of your community, of every part of your ancestral line. How do we get from separation when there's a huge amount driving us to be separate day after day after day? I don't watch the news, but if you did, you would see every day there's more and more separation between us, different viewpoints, arguments. So yeah, how do we get to wholeness? And that is what we were working on at the weekend, this new story of frequency, vibration, and wholeness.
Yeah, and wasn't it so, what's the word, symbolic, the weather? The fact that the storm came once everybody had arrived, which was like, we were so lucky. And then kind of the roads, a road got cleared enough to let everybody find their way home on the Sunday. But that Saturday, you know, it was just like, whoa, it's time.
Trapped in, roads closed, riverbanks burst. We were in the river. I actually the river came to us.
Yeah,
told us. Yeah, it was lovely.
And the power of the water. It was really kind of obvious. Right, come on, goddesses, get in there. Let the water.
That's it. How can you surrender to that, to the situation that you're in, instead of being in fear? And yeah, the fear and pain, and we were working on the things that kind of keep us trapped in the old story, which is the dense vibration and frequency, is like the labels that we hold, as in how we who we think we are, how we identify ourselves all throughout our lives. Then also the labels that others have of us, mother, daughter, and all of the expectations within that. And, you know, are you, you're the sensitive one, you're the strong one, you're this one and that one, and so on. And then we looked at blame, and how blame and judgment, and if there is any place for blame, then it's very hard to be in wholeness, because blame instantly, or the idea of justice, causes separation, because there's one right and one wrong. We looked at shame. We looked at boundaries, how we've never really been taught boundaries or to speak our needs. It's always with this kind of blame, again, of someone's not doing something right, or some needs are not being met, and that's somebody's fault. And then we also looked at compassion, because the idea of compassion, healthy compassion, and this is where this links into systemic work, family constellations, is are we holding sympathy and we think it's compassion, or are we able to respect someone else's story, someone else's predicament, even if it's very, very sad and painful? Can we let them hold that, or do we try and hold it for them? And that keeps people small. So it's about healthy compassion with respect and dignity. And yeah, we worked with all of those pillars of the old story, so that we could really, really just trust and let go of that branch, and let go of all those things that are keeping us in that keep us sick, that keep us in all of these states of separation.
Yeah, I mean, it is all about letting go. I've known that for a long time, but still find myself holding on. When I did the Sedona Method Advanced, it was 9 days, 14 hours a day of letting go of every label and concept that Lilia thought she knew, or was, or had, or has, and all the things Lilia thought she had to do in order to become spiritual and enlightenment. It's just a whole other trap, isn't it?
So, yeah, that's that. I would say, like, you can be in the news, you can work in Tesco, have 10 kids and eat microwave meals every day, and really be holding the new story. Because yeah, it's not a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, exactly. And that's, I think, the more it all starts to crumble, the more you realise, oh, I made a big jigsaw story about something that never even actually ever existed. And it made me miserable, and I could have made it any way I wanted. And it's crazy, isn't it? And, I think I was talking to you about me doing my Bible study, which is a lot of my friends are finding and my family finding highly amusing. But it's because of the way my conscious brain works and my obsession with quantum physics and the field of energy. I see even the whole kind of, because I think religion's had a bad rap, and the Bible, because there's just so much horrible stuff around the abuse of power and the abuse of trust. But I'm like, the Bible's always intrigued me. So to start to see it, through this kind of quantum healing, and how we can heal with intention, and also how we've been kind of hijacked and actually been made terrified of our own bodies. So I know that you and I it's always great. You actually said something to just before we went live, and I was talking about Israel, and you said, that's interesting systemically. Because, do you want to just expand on that? How I see it through one lens, and you see it through that lens, and it's so cool when it comes together, because it helps you just to understand again what can we do? What can we do?
Yeah, I think like with anything like that, I always think what's playing out, and it's coming back around, because it's always repeats. It's always fractals of a previous story, an older story, and if you were talking about this blame for Jewish people, and you think, wow, that happened a long time ago, and is it really happening again? So nothing surprises me anymore in these times, to be honest. And not that I don't care at all, it's not that, but there is an element of what's playing out, and there are kind of like threads behind it that of unresolved issues. So systemically, it's what came before. That's always what you're looking at. Any system, and something's excluded. So, bless you. When something's taken out of a system, the whole rest of the system is impacted until that part that's been taken out returns. And usually it's the part that's been taken out that will actually, in an invisible way, govern the system, govern what's going on. So it will keep playing out and keep playing out and keep playing out until something's resolved. And how do we resolve it systemically? Is by everything and everyone having a place. And then you look at, wow, this blame and this desire to eliminate people based on their religion or their nationality. Yeah. And it's like, what is playing out there systemically, and how can there be a movement to bring things back into balance? And that healing movement is always, whether it's on a personal level or on a global level, it's always the same. It's always acknowledgement, giving place, giving everyone and everything a place, regardless of their deeds, regardless of their previous actions, regardless of, and allowing them to hold the consequences of their previous actions. But whilst there's judgment and exclusion, it'll just continue and continue. So yeah, it's really interesting when you look, when things repeat, or these kind of like, how can this be happening events take place. It's like, wow, are we, what's happened to humanity when we can do that? But then someone's playing the victim role, someone's playing the perpetrator role, and it's the dynamics just on a global scale. And yeah, how do we bring balance to that? Is instead of judging and just feeding into, oh look, here are the victims, poor them, and here are the perpetrators, that's terrible. How can we help? And we all rally round on the side of the victims, and make it known at our disgust at the behaviour of the perpetrators, and the whole thing continues over and over. It's like a formula. You can just change the event, and when we have these reactions, we'll continue excluding, judging, I have this conversation with my mum a lot, and she says, "Oh, so you think people should just get away with that then?" It's not that. It's not about that at all. It's not about that at all.
Yeah, is that I get the same with letting go. Are you just letting them off the hook?
Yeah.
And and I think the mistake people think is that you're not going to take action, but you're not taking action from that very emotive and usually pretty unhelpful emotional state. And I think we've done the victim perpetrator for long enough now to know that it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
So it's time now. And I think if you look at that in your own private life, most people will have somebody, certainly over since 2020, that's really triggered them and pushed their buttons. And our need to be right and wanting to be right is so strong, and the ego comes in and we want to blame and shame and complain. And then when eventually you're like that, well, is there another way to do this? As like one of the girls did at the retreat when her dad had been vicious. She just went over and actually hugged him. And that's all it took to break and that's where the courage comes in, and I suppose the wisdom and the understanding, well, let's give it a go. Because what have you got to lose, really? Trying another way, because they say it's a sign of insanity, keep doing the same things, more wars, more wars, more wars. It's like, really? What are they even about? We know it's a lot of bullshit anyway. It's power struggles, isn't it? Always about the power struggles and the abuse of that power, which seems to have been in humans for the year. But I think the new story, certainly the way I'm seeing it, going back to the Bible study where they talk about it just in a slightly different language, but to me it's all the same thing. That the energy's changing. We can choose to transmute gracefully and with ease or not. How that'll pan out, I really don't know. I don't want to know. I think getting comfortable with the unknown is fine for me right now, because you can't be looking too far into the future. Just dealing with as above, so below. The more peaceful we can stay, the more releasing we can do, the more ancestral stuff that we can release. Because I know when I did it at first, I realised that not only is it and this is the kind of goes into the emotion codes as well, the maternal line, the paternal line, but also, for my daughters, my son, and my grandchildren, that you're doing a lot of the work for them as much as for yourself.
Yes. So, when you're one of my other teachers explained it to me, like if there's a tapestry and there's one thread, it doesn't matter where on the line you pull that thread out. If it's you, if it's your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents, you pull it out and the whole thing comes out. So you're unraveling if this let's say sexual abuse is the thread that's just woven throughout the tapestry of your family system, because it's never the first time, it's always some fractal of something, so when you do that work for yourself, you're healing the lines in both directions, the ones that came before you, the ones that come after you, because it's not really linear time like that, so it's just all. And this, I feel like it's really important to say that this isn't about spirituality. The new story, it's, as we said at the beginning, it's here. And it doesn't mean that we have to sit and think, oh, here's a perpetrator. How do I stay peaceful? Because I did that for a long time as well. And it doesn't really work, because actually all you're doing is suppressing your trigger. Because you think, right, I need to be peaceful here and not react when I'm really in disagreement with what this person's saying or doing. So I'll just hold it and I'll be really calm and I'll do some meditation or whatever. But it's not actually, it's maybe better than screaming and shouting, but it's not actually shifting anything. You're just holding on to it, and then it comes in other ways, like sickness or dis-ease or stuff like that, the more you hold things in. So it's about actually shifting your perspective, and that doesn't, you don't have to be super spiritual to do that. There are really just some very, very simple, fundamental ways that you can, through your work, through my work. And it's just suggestions that people can take on board and practice that shifts. You know, it's not about going and, you know, people will say, well, I don't have time to meditate every day. I've got a really busy life. I've got family. I've got all of this. And but yeah, it's not about that. It's not about that at all for me. It's about changing and understanding when you catch yourself in these places of judgment around victim and perpetrator. You know, it's like, and one of the girls gave us a really good example at the weekend, just an everyday story about a relative in the hospital and how people had behaved, and it was just everyday scenario that you would find. And you know, we're saying, okay, who's the perpetrator in the story and who's the victim? And so it's about just learning to recognize that, because unity doesn't come from us all agreeing with each other, does it? That's not real unity. It's about being able to disagree and have completely different viewpoints and stances on something, but to hold that with respect for your fellow human being. And to be able to do that, we need to let go of all the old stuff and things that have been taught to us, through school, through everything we've ever known, through the behaviour of our parents and our grandparents, and because we're in different times now, and we know that, but we don't know how to be in that. We know we're in different times. We can all feel it. We can all see in each other subtle changes, and because we are upgrading, and we know that. But you know, what steps do we take so that people like you and me and others out there that can just give a little bit of guidance for the next steps towards that collective new story, because we're all in this together and we're all suffering.
Absolutely. And I think, again, you know, going back to doing the Bible study, which is very much all about hope. And I think that's what's really nice about the work that we do. It's allowing people to get, you know, come out of the drama and the story and the suffering and go, actually, what if? What if it's just going to get better? You know, because we're so strong that the spirit within all of us is just so incredible. And just, I think there's been so many straws on top of the camel's back for a lot of people. They literally cannot see the light that is always at the end of the tunnel. So let's just talk a little bit then about the Goddess Gathering, because I'm so happy you're going to be in Glasgow and Edinburgh with us, because this Goddess Gathering tour is different from the Goddess Gatherings I've done before, which have been very much about come and try, and getting lots of great people. And they've been fantastic fun. I'm not saying they weren't, but I kind of feel as well, we're now in this, let's get the job done. What do we want to achieve with, you know, there's so many retreats and things that people can go to now, and you want to give value, and you also want to make sure you're not just kind of, well, this is how we do it, that you're really tuning in and going, right, how can I best serve the people on this landmass we call Scotland? So I was looking at, and Julie Fibster and Jennifer Main just came in there to be part of the kind of team, and obviously you as well, because the ancestral stuff. Really going, well, look, let's get into this field of inner knowing, genuinely get in. How do we learn to trust the information that if we're asking the questions and the information's coming in a ways we may not expect? If people are coming in that we're like, oh, I didn't think about that, because the conscious mind's really got nothing to do with this. It's all like the systems, isn't it? And what we've recorded since conception, and maybe even before that, and what's in the DNA, etc. So being able to go, right, okay, this is how we're going to do it. This is the how to. And we're then going to learn protocols and different angles and different ways to really get in, and then how we can let go of the past. You're going to be there talking about the new story, and hopefully do a little. Yeah. I love that, you know, we can look at our parents and You know, I had a beautiful childhood. I understand that, but I still wanted to moan about it. But we take things, we tend to focus on the negative. They did this and they did that. You know, my mum wouldn't let me go out till 4 in the morning when I was 14. That was really her biggest crime. Um, and but you know, you're going, well, thank you for all the amazing things you did for me and gave me. But here's the stuff that I've been carrying of yours and give actually, you know, that whole physiological, put the body through the process of giving back. God, it's so powerful and it's so simple.
It's amazing. Absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. I think people often think, well, first of all, people don't really know about constellations, family constellations, or systemic work. And then when they look, they think, oh, that's about trauma. No, I can't. You know, so people think that the traumas that they carry, either they carry big traumas and they don't want to be re-traumatized, so they don't want to go near it,
Mhm.
or they think, oh, I don't have traumas, so I don't want to find any. And so yeah, that's like somehow that creates a bit of an avoidance. But for me, the new story, it's about, we don't need to focus on the trauma. We don't need to go and delve into that and understand it all and everything. It's a very gentle acknowledgement, very gentle, almost like just skirting around. And then, as you say, it's magic. I don't know, but it's the giving back of, you know, like one sister we saw at the weekend who has been carrying for 50, 60 years this pain, these beliefs, these you know, lists and lists of stuff, and the simple action of giving it back in the right circumstances, with in the right way, just life changing. Just
Absolutely.
life began,
Absolutely.
and it hadn't been there before. And a lot of it is also the reason I feel now that my personal motivation for being involved in the Goddess Gathering is that excuse me, for 8 years now I've been enjoying and having the most beautiful times working with all of my clients and retreats and all sorts of stuff. But looking now collectively, we are sick. We're sick more than ever, you know, physically sick. Cancers and all sorts of diseases. And every time I work with that systemically, there is a root, there is a emotional, systemic root for disease. And without going too much into it, we're following old stories or people out of the system, others who have died, and so on and so on. So this is it's so crucial now, and it's not about doing retreats and being spiritual, and it's like bringing the awareness to everyone in a very clear, tangible way that we can all work with without having to look at trauma, without having to do spiritual work or go on a retreat. It's like, how can you apply this every day in your life to start helping ourselves and each other to not be so sick?
Because I think, you know, you could see that in our sister at the weekend, how literally you could see what she'd been carrying physically, can't you? And the physical
Yeah.
manifestation of what the mind does to the body. Because I always say that to people, the body follows the mind, not the other way around. So we keeping the mind clean and clear and curious and helpful and excited and motivated and looking in the direction you want to go, as opposed to looking in the direction you don't want to go. And that's one of my big gripes about our system, because they terrify people, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just never helpful. But also, sometimes you need to be given a right good boot up the arse to make you understand that change is essential, or the body's going to pack in. But you know, I heard a doctor say last week, which really, I might have told you this at the weekend. She said, "Look, it's serious, but don't be afraid."
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's so beautiful. Don't be afraid. Because so you're saying, look, you need to pay attention to this. You can't ignore this, because the body knocks, doesn't it? I'm sure you see that, and it's like, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. And we just ignore it until it gets to the stage where the fire alarm's going off. And
yeah, I mean, we are a system. Our body is a system, and some part of that system is not functioning to stay healthy. So why is that? So let's look at the whole system, and I don't mean just only in terms of lifestyle and likes and dislikes, hobbies, and all of this kind of stuff. Like, let's actually look at the full system and what's impacting it systemically in terms of ancestrally. But we don't have to go into all these big trauma stories.
No. And I mean, Joe Dispenza's a big fan of that. He never goes back. He just raises the frequency so that the old can be released. And I think that's the way it's going to be in the future for sure. I think sometimes we still need to unhook the fingers from the past. So I don't think there's ever one way that suits everyone. But I definitely like that idea. Let's just look over here. Where are we going? What are we? What these new frequencies, the new story. We all understand that the way it's working now is not working. Mm-hmm. So how are we going to change that? And these goddess gatherings are really going to be very key from the Heal Scotland perspective, because it's educate, inspire, support. So educating on family constellations. The work that Julie's been doing and the research she's been doing, Jennifer Main, just a total superstar in her. Again, I think everybody now, nobody just does one training, everybody does about 300.
Yeah.
You can't say, well, so what do you do? And you're like, what do you even call it anymore? I just say I'm a health coach or guide.
No labels, eh?
Yeah, exactly, because all these things that matter. And the way I see it is, if we start taking the straws off the camel's back, because we don't even do the healing, we just stop tormenting the body enough that the immune system can come back in and heal itself.
Mm-hmm.
And the extraordinary link between stress and disease. And I think we think of stress as worrying, but there's so many stressors. The food can stress the body. Obviously the what you drink can stress the body. Drugs, legal and illegal, they're all the same to me. That just some are dressed up as a sheep in wolf's clothing. That can stress the body. Work, relationships, money or lack of it can stress the body. But also, what really happens is when you've got all that the stress hormones going in, you're totally disrupting the ecosystem inside, and it can then become a nice place for things to live that were never really designed to live there. So there's no one thing. I know people, and I've done it myself, where you clean your diet up and it really isn't enough. You need to look at all these other things. And I'm putting together packages. I'm just thinking, actually, now you should be in it, because it's something you could do. I'm having a session with each of the experts, that are in my awareness at the moment, so that people can see all of that matters. Mm-hmm. Because we focus very much on the diet, but if you're riddled with worms and parasites, your diet ain't going to work.
And also, if you believe that you're not worthy of a healthy life, or that there's I don't know, there could be like famine or some kind of big story somewhere far back in the system, and this parts of it can be playing out. There's all sorts of like invisible stuff that's in there that can be cleared out of, like subconscious beliefs that are passed down in the DNA or fears, or just a rejection of one or both of your parents for various reasons, and then there's an impact that you're not worthy of a full life. And so no matter what you're doing in all of your daily activities and your diet, there's like your body just has a deep belief that it cannot thrive.
And it doesn't matter what you're saying, because the words don't have, if the subconscious is resonating something completely different, you don't have that alignment, and people can feel that.
And you might be stressed about money, And this is like, you're doing everything else really for the good of your system, but you've got this constant stress about money and lack and worry, and who knows where that's coming from, an old thread from something else in the system, and clear that out so then you can be comfortable and happy with what's there, or call in more, whatever it is, and then that changes your energetic frequency and everything, so like stressors are not always just within your control in your daily life. A lot of them can also be unknown as part of the system, so there's a lot can get cleared out.
Absolutely. And I think we forget, don't we? What's been coming up for me in the Genius Insight app is a head injury. Now, I cracked my skull, an after pub accident. Where I was giving my friend a meal, a large meal. I was showing how strong I was, and I was giving him a carry coal bag. And one of my other friends jumped on top of him, and we all went down. And I cracked my head off the wall. I mean, it wasn't that sore. Actually, a woman got a terrible fright. I remember her being down going, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" Of course, I was drunk and I was totally fine. And so I've got a lump, definitely bone or something. Now, as far as I was aware, that's never caused me seconds issue. But I thought, wow, you see, that's the thing. There's some very obvious things, you can say, well, that we can look back on, go, well, that trauma happened, I was raped, or I was abused, or my mum, my dad's, whatever it is that's in your line that are very clear and obvious traumas. But there's all the other things as well that we forget about, especially when you get to this grand old age. So there's all the information, and it's just been in that, giving yourself, and I think that's where, for me, it was really nice, because obviously I was helping you out with the food at the retreat, but I was like, God, you need to give yourself that space, whether it's in a retreat, whether it's in an Airbnb by yourself or one of your friends. Take the time out just to look and listen. I think we have to do that now, because there could be a few, curveballs coming yet. We need to be resilient.
Yeah.
And that's where, things like that we're doing and we're teaching and we're inspiring people with can really, really help us to stay strong.
Yeah.
And to cry together, laugh together. Because, we had so much fun at the weekend as well. In that bloody mental river. It's just like, so it's nice to have that. You can just, whatever comes up can come up and come out and be released. And it's all welcome, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, Edinburgh bonfire weekend. So I think you're first up on the Sunday morning.
Yes.
And then Glasgow 2 weeks later. So I can't remember where you're there. I don't know. I've not got the programme in front of me. But yeah, it's all on the website and the events page. So find out more, please. If you know anybody who you feel could benefit, if it's resonating with you, share this. Understanding that you are why you are, is the awareness is the first step to going, right, so instead of beating ourselves up over and over again, realizing we've picked up a lot of information, some consciously, most unconsciously, and now we're just coming into this magnificent new energy of going, we can all move out of suffering. It might take us a few steps, a few tries, etc. But the possibility, the potential in the field is there. We've got an amazing lineup for you at the Goddess Gatherings. We're just so excited to bring this stuff out to you. I'm going to have the biofield viewer there. I'm going to have the Insight app where we can all collectively do these sound frequencies. It's just going to harmonise everything. It's just a glorious time to be alive.
Absolutely, isn't it? All under one roof as well.
I know, exactly. So it's kind of like a mini retreat, a 2-day journey into the field of inner knowing. So so thank you all. Davina, Christina, Jenny, Karina, hello from Liverpool. Yes, lovely to see you. So please, guys, the biggest thing you can do for the Heal Scotland social enterprise is share, spread the love, spread the word. We do as many things as we can for free. We give tons of information away. I know Vida does the same as me. We'll help anybody who reaches out. Hi, thanks, Jenny. Obviously, we still have bills to pay, so there are things that you have to pay. I think the Goddess Gathering at £99 is absolutely a steal for what you're going to get, which is pretty much a one-to-one session with all of us. And that collective energy, like I talked about, that power grid that we create when we all get together, the power of the people. So,
and the hope.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, huge respect, Vida. Thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you, darling.
always a joy to see you, and I look forward to seeing you in Edinburgh next. Have a brilliant time in Portugal, and give Danny a big fat hug for me.
I will do. Okay, Lily, I love you. See you soon.
Love you too. Thanks for joining, everyone. See you soon.